Welcome back to Decoding Zarathustra, the podcast where we break down Nietzsche's most challenging work. I'm your host, Alex.
And I'm Ben, here to help make sense of it all. Alex, today we're tackling a really intense chapter, The Convalescent.
That's right. The last time we saw Zarathustra, he had returned to his cave. This chapter opens with him in a state of absolute crisis.
Crisis is putting it mildly. The text says he sprang up from his couch like a madman, crying with a frightful voice. What is happening here?
He's confronting something he calls his abysmal thought. He screams at it, as if it's a separate person lying in bed with him who refuses to wake up.
He literally says, "Up, abysmal thought, out of my depth. I am thy cock and morning dawn, thou overslept reptile, up, up." The imagery is so violent.
It is. He's trying to force this thought into the light, to make it speak. He says his voice is a medicine, even for those born blind. He wants to face it fully.
And what is this abysmal thought? The text doesn't say right away, but he gives some clues.
He does. He calls himself Zarathustra the Godless, and then the advocate of living, the advocate of suffering, the advocate of the circuit.
That word circuit seems important. It sounds like a loop, something that comes back around.
Exactly. It's a major hint. He's trying to summon this deep, terrifying idea, and he finally feels it coming. He says, "Mine abyss speaketh. My lowest depth have I turned over into the light."
It seems like a moment of triumph, but then it immediately turns sour. He reaches out his hand and then recoils, crying, "Disgust, disgust, disgust, alas to me."
And right after that, he collapses. He falls down as one dead and remains that way for a long, long time.
So, confronting this thought, whatever it is, literally knocks him out. He's completely overwhelmed by it.
Completely. The text says he lies there for 7 days, pale and trembling, refusing to eat or drink. His sickness is profound.
But his animals don't leave him. The eagle and the serpent stay by his side, and the eagle even brings him food, berries, apples, pine cones.
It's a very tender scene. They create this bed of foraged food around him, almost like an offering. It shows their deep connection to him.
After those 7 days, he finally starts to come around. He picks up a rosy apple and smells it, and the scent is pleasant to him.
This is the first sign of his recovery, his convalescence. It's a simple sensory connection to the world, and at this point his animals decide it's time to speak.
They encourage him, right? They say, "The world waiteth for thee as a garden. All things long for thee." They're trying to coax him back to life.
Yes, and they astutely diagnose his condition. They ask, "Did perhaps a new knowledge come to thee? A bitter, grievous knowledge?"
They sense that his sickness isn't physical, but philosophical. It's a sickness of the soul, which they say arose and swelled beyond all its bounds.
Zarathustra's response is fascinating. He doesn't answer their question directly. Instead, he tells them to keep talking because their voices are refreshing.
He gets very poetic about it. How charming it is that there are words and tones. Aren't words and tones rainbows and seeming bridges twixt the eternally separated?
He's touching on a deep philosophical idea here, that every soul is its own world, and we are fundamentally separate from one another.
And words and sounds are like seeming bridges. They give us the illusion of connection, but the gap always remains. He says the smallest gap is most difficult to bridge over.
Right. He calls speech a beautiful folly that lets man dance over everything. It's a form of self-refreshment, a way to forget the fundamental isolation of existence.
So, at this moment of deep sickness, he's finding comfort in the surface-level beauty of sound and speech, rather than the terrifying depth of his abysmal thought.
Exactly. But his animals don't let him there. They respond by articulating the very thought that made him sick, but they do it in a beautiful, almost song-like way.
This is where they lay out the doctrine of the eternal return, isn't it?
Yes, perfectly. They say, "Everything goeth, everything returneth, eternally rolleth the wheel of existence."
Everything dies, everything blossoms forth again, eternally runneth on the year of existence.
It's so cyclical. They continue, "Eternally buildeth itself the same house, eternally true to itself remaineth the ring of existence."
The middle is everywhere. Crooked is the path of eternity.
They've just spelled out the abysmal thought for him, the very idea of the eternal recurrence. And Zarathustra's reaction is to smile and call them wags and barrel organs. He acknowledges they know exactly what he's been struggling with for these 7 days.
And he confirms it. He says how that monster crept into my throat and choked me. but I bit off its head and spat it away from me.
This is a reference to an earlier chapter, On the Vision and the Riddle, where a dwarf whispers the idea of eternal return and a snake chokes a shepherd. Here, Zarathustra is that shepherd.
So he bit off its head. He confronted the idea, but he's still sick from it. Still sick with my own salvation, he says. What a phrase.
It's a paradox. This knowledge is his path to salvation, to becoming the Übermensch, but the process of accepting it is sickening.
Then he turns on his animals, accusing them of being cruel for watching his pain, just like humans do.
Yes, he goes on a tirade against humanity. He says man has been happiest on earth at tragedies, bullfights, and crucifixions.
He even claims that when man invented his hell, behold, that was his heaven on earth.
Meaning we take pleasure in the imagined suffering of others. He calls it a kind of lusting. Even when a little man shows what he calls pity for a great man who is crying out, it's really just a form of this morbid fascination with pain.
He's really painting a grim picture here. He even includes himself, saying man is cruelest towards himself, especially those who call themselves sinners or penitents.
He sees a kind of voluptuousness in their self-accusation. But then he pivots. He says he's learned something crucial from all this.
And this seems to be the core of the chapter. What has he learned?
He says he's learned that, for man, his baddest is necessary for his best. That the worst in us is the best power, and the hardest stone for the highest creator.
So, to create something truly great, you need to engage with the worst parts of yourself and the world. You can't just be good.
Precisely. Man must become better and badder. But this isn't what sickened him. He cries out as no one has before.
Ah, that his baddest is so very small. Ah, that his best is so very small.
This is the real source of his horror? Yes, it is the great disgust at man. It wasn't the evil of humanity that broke him. It was the mediocrity, the pettiness.
So, tying this back to the eternal return, it's not the thought of a great villain returning forever that disgusts him.
No, it's the thought of the small man returning eternally, the man of comfort, without ambition, without great love or great contempt.
That's the quote, isn't it? Eternally he returneth, the man of whom thou art weary, the small man, so yawned my sadness.
That's the line. The thought that all of human history, with all its potential, would just culminate in this endless, repetitive cycle of smallness, that's what choked him.
He says he saw the greatest man and the smallest man, and found them all too like one another, all too human. Even our heroes are, in the end, just small.
And that was his disgust at man. But the eternal return also of the smallest man, that was my disgust at all existence. It tainted everything.
This is the abyss, the ultimate nihilistic thought. If everything, even mediocrity, returns forever, what's the point of striving?
Exactly. It threatens to make everything meaningless. And he ends this rant with the same words that caused his collapse. Ah, disgust, disgust, disgust.
He's right back at the precipice of that horror. But this time, his animals intervene before he can fall again.
They do. They tell him, "Do not speak further, thou convalescent." They know that dwelling on this thought rationally is destructive for him right now.
They give him a prescription. Go out where the world waiteth for thee like a garden. Go out unto the roses, the bees, and the flocks of doves.
And most importantly, they tell him to go unto the singing birds, to learn singing from them. For singing is for the convalescent. The sound ones may talk.
That's a really interesting distinction. Why singing? Why is that the cure?
Because talking is analytical. It's about dissecting ideas, which is what led him to this crisis. Singing, in this context, is about affirmation. It's an act of creation and joy that doesn't need to be logically justified.
So it's a way to embrace life and existence without getting bogged down in the paralyzing why. It's a way to dance over the abyss, as he said earlier.
Perfectly put. It's about healing the soul with new forms of expression. Zarathustra then reveals he had already figured this out for himself during his 7-day sickness.
He says that I have to sing once more. That consolation that I devised for myself, and this convalescence. He knew he needed a new song.
And the animals take this one step further. They tell him, rather, thou convalescent, prepare for thyself first a lyre, a new lyre.
For thy new lays there are needed new lyres. So this new, terrifying knowledge requires a completely new form of art to express it.
Yes, you can't just put this radical new teaching into the old forms. You need a new way of being, a new way of singing to bear it. And then they drop the final bombshell.
They tell him who he is and what he must become.
They say, "Behold, thou art the teacher of the eternal return. That is now thy fate."
Wow. So they're telling him his destiny is to teach the very idea that almost destroyed him.
And they acknowledge the terrible difficulty of this. They say, "How could this great fate not be thy greatest danger and infirmity?"
The thing that makes him sick is also his life's purpose. That's an incredible burden to carry.
It is. To teach it, he must first embody it. He has to overcome his own disgust and learn to affirm the eternal return, including the small man.
The animals then give this incredible speech where they imagine what Zarathustra would say if he were to die right now, having accepted this fate.
It's a beautiful and powerful moment. They speak for him, showing him the words of affirmation he needs to find.
They imagine him saying, "Now do I die and disappear, and in a moment I am nothing." He accepts his mortality.
But then he would continue, "But the plexus of causes returneth, in which I am intertwined. It will again create me. I myself pertain to the causes of the eternal return."
He becomes a part of the cycle, a necessary link in the chain of cause and effect that ensures the recurrence.
And he would affirm his return with this sun, with this earth, with this eagle, with this serpent, not to a new life or a better life or a similar life. Absolutely. He must embrace the whole package, and his purpose in returning? To teach again the eternal return of all things, to speak again the word of the great noontide of earth and man, to announce again to man the Superman.
So the Ubermans or Superman is the one who can live with this knowledge, who can will the eternal return of his own life, warts and all.
Precisely. The Superman is the goal, and the eternal return is the test. The animals lay out his entire destiny for him.
And the imagined death speech ends with, "Thus endeth Zarathustra's downgoing. His period of descent and struggle would be over."
It's the ultimate affirmative statement. The animals basically hand him the script for his own salvation. They show him how to turn his greatest sickness into his greatest strength.
So how does Zarathustra react to this? After they lay out his entire fate for him, what does he say?
That's the final, crucial part of the chapter. He says nothing. Zarathustra did not hear that they were silent. On the contrary, he lay quietly with closed eyes like a person sleeping, although he did not sleep.
He's not sleeping. The text says he communed just then with his soul. He's internalizing it.
Exactly. The external battle, the screaming at his thought, is over. Now the quiet internal work of acceptance and transformation begins.
And the animals, his wise companions, respect this. They see he's silent and prudently retired, leaving him in the stillness.
It's a powerful ending. He's been given the diagnosis, the cure, and the ultimate purpose. Now he has to integrate it.
So this chapter, The Convalescent, is the turning point. He confronts the most nihilistic thought imaginable.
The eternal return of mediocrity.
And he's shown a path to overcome it, not by refuting it, but by affirming it through a new kind of singing, and by accepting it as his destiny to teach it.
Yes, it's the moment he begins to transform from a critic of humanity into a creator of new values. His convalescence is the beginning of his true mission.
Let's dig a little deeper into that idea of the small man. Is Nietzsche just being an elitist here?
That's a common criticism, but it's more complex. The small man isn't about social class or wealth. It's a psychological type.
The last man from the prologue who seeks only comfort and security?
Exactly. The person who avoids risk, challenge, and suffering at all costs. The one who says, "We have invented happiness," and blinks.
So Zarathustra's disgust is that this type of person, this mindset of prioritizing comfort over greatness, will become the final, enduring form of humanity.
And the eternal return of that would be a cosmic tragedy, an endless cycle of meaninglessness. His mission is to provide an alternative, the Übermensch.
The one who would look at the eternal return and say, again.
Yes, even knowing it includes all the pain, all the suffering, and all the mediocrity. to be able to affirm one's own life so completely that you would will it to repeat forever.
That is a heavy, heavy concept, and it makes sense why it would cause a 7-day sickness.
It's called the greatest weight for a reason, and Zarathustra has to learn to bear it before he can teach others how.
So the new lyre and new lays are the tools for bearing that weight.
They are the artistic and philosophical framework needed to transform the greatest weight into the greatest affirmation of life.
It's a profound psychological journey, from absolute disgust to the beginning of acceptance.
And it all happens in the solitude of his cave, with only his animals as his guides, a truly pivotal moment in the book.
It really sets the stage for everything that comes next. He has his ultimate teaching now, even if he can't fully embrace it yet.
The path is laid out. Now he just has to walk it, and that journey will be the focus of the chapters to come.
What a chapter. It's dense, but breaking it down like this really clarifies the arc of his struggle.
That's our goal. Thanks for joining us on Decoding Zarathustra. We'll see you next time as we follow Zarathustra out of his cave and back into the world.
Looking forward to it. Goodbye, everyone.